Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna attempt to make one of those hollow balls with those rings around it that intersect. I'm just gonna tell you right now that the chances of success are about 65%. The reason is that it's really, how do you say, precision cutting, and one mistake will cause the whole thing to just fail. So what I did is I prepared two pieces of cherry from a log, being held by some ash piece that I have here, so that I can turn this into half a sphere on both sides and separate it, and then we'll hollow it out. It's going to be a 5.5 inch diameter ball. I'm going to follow all these steps. I didn't do any preparation with the exception of the wood itself at home, because I did want to show you exactly how, the steps involved. There may be a period where we may have to wait a few minutes for the glue to have some hold. In the meantime, we can discuss, or I'll show you some of the tools that I put together to accomplish what we're going to do. So this one here is measuring. I measured approximately. We have there 5.5. This is about 6 inches right now. I'm looking for 5.5. Yeah, this is over 6 inches. So I'm going to turn this quickly to about 5 3/4. The other 1/4 inch will finish up as the ball with the ball cutter. Okay. So let's just proceed in cutting away the material. I like to hold it so that I can work quicker. So let's proceed in cutting this down to about 5 3/4 inches, give or take. This is on. Speed is good. So basically, I want to remove material. Let me mark 5 3/4 so that I can move in without worrying about making it smaller. If it's smaller, it's game over. So I must not make that mistake. It's and a little bit beyond 5.5. I'm not 5 3/4, so I'll turn it to slightly beyond the line. So even if I hit the line, I'm still safe, but I'll try not to hold it. That's all good. Okay? Now my next step is going to be to flatten this face so that when I get the other piece, better good contact. And this is where what I call my squaring tool comes in handy. That's the tool that I developed. So I start off by locking this. Right. Okay. It's running true, which is nice. And it's running square to the bed. So that's what I'm going to use as the guide. Okay, this is the jig. So what I do is basically get it close enough to the surface. I come in this way. This one I'll lock nice and tight so it doesn't move. Loosen this one in gently. And all I do is just turn this until it's contact across. Then I'll lock this in place. There we go. So let's turn this on. We're going a little slower beginning. All I'm interested in is a flat surface. Now you'll notice it's hollow here. So what? It's going to be hollowed out anyway. I have enough surface here to be able to make good contact, and the two halves should be able to hold well. So I'll increase the speed. Just go a notch in advance and just move in slowly so that the surface is smooth, line free. There you go. Okay, now I have a surface which is flat and it's square to the table. So I can take this piece out, it's ready to glue to the next piece. I'll prepare the other piece exactly the same way, except that once the other piece is squared off, I don't remove it from the lathe. I use the tailstock to glue this in place. Let's proceed with this one. By the way, I held these pieces together using ash, and I epoxied it down because I was afraid glue may sort of, because it's an end grain adhesion. I was just afraid that it may snap off. So hopefully the epoxy will do a better job.
Are both ends flat so that when they come together they...
Yeah, well, that's what I'm doing now.
Okay.
You talking about here?
Yeah, is there a male and a female part
No,
there?
they're just going to be flat.
They go, how do they just glue together like
Yeah, all in between I put a piece of paper. So we'll do the same thing here. I want to let you in on something for those who may want to adopt it or not. It's up to you. What I do is when I want to mark the center of a piece that I'm working on with the tailstock, I lock the pin so that it does not rotate. The reason is if you allow it to rotate, basically what it does is it comes in contact with the wood, and as you press in, it'll follow the grain. So if the grain is not quite perpendicular or not quite straight, it'll be off, and you'll feel a vibration afterwards when you start it. Whereas when you let this thing run with the pin locked, it forces itself into alignment. It'll burn itself into alignment, and this way you'll have a true support without any vibration whatsoever. Okay, put this in, make sure it's lined up, and now I tighten it up again. That should be much better. Okay. Okay. Let's see what I got. And I might almost there. I'm a little bit bigger than 3/4, so I'll knock off the line. Okay, good. The trick is to glue them together with a piece of paper in between. Then when the job's done, you just put a knife where the joint is, hit it with a hammer, and it should pop open. I like to do it here rather than having done it at home, is because when the glue is relatively fresh, like it's not 100% hard, it's easier to separate on a large surface. If they were small, then it shouldn't be no problem, but on a bigger ball, it's a lot harder to separate because it has to snap open at once. It's not just a gradual tear. You don't need too much glue. Okay. I don't even worry about aligning the grain because I don't care. Actually, if the grain is not aligned, it's even better because I'll be able to find my center much easier. Okay. Now, while this is setting, it'll take maybe 5 minutes or so. You'll have enough hole to be able to do the job. Let me show you the tools that I come up with to groove the balls. Now, these two are for marking the spaces between the grooves, and this one is to actually do the outside groove. You'll notice it's rather small because it is the outside groove that really is the problematic, and not the inside. The inside, there's meat everywhere, so when you dig in, nothing will break. But once the inside grooves are made, when you're into making the outside grooves, if you go full width, you risk tearing the inside material, especially if the grain is in the wrong direction. So you go with a small tip, and that's where you have to be gentle and careful not to dig in too fast. This one, if you can zoom in on this, is the actual 1/8 inch tool with 1/8 inch depth. But you notice the tip is rounded. Can you see that? Okay. It's rounded so that you get a nice clean edge. Okay. Once I go in with this, then I finish it off with this one, which is the same size of tool, but it's just a flat edge, so that I get a nice flat surface at the other end, at the bottom of it is. So it'll be as clean as possible, the hole. Now the whole challenge, the challenge in the grooving is actually going in correctly. If you go in wrongly, well, that's where the problems occur. As you enter the place in which you want to make the groove, this should be pointing towards the center of the sphere, so that the groove is sort of in line with the center. Right now, this has enough hold to be able to continue to do the work. This is staying in there for a little while longer, so I can start cutting right now. What I'll do is I clean off the edge by bringing it down to not quite 5.5 inches. I wanted to bring it down to a little higher than 1.5. And then I'll set the compass cutter to cut the balls. In passing, since we're waiting for this thing to set, I just want to show you that I took the one-way tool rest and I drilled a hole in here on one of the corners. Because what happens when you're trying to groove inside, you can't see very well, and you're trying to zero in on the proper position. So with the hole there and a light source, I can see inside. Okay? That should be fine. Let's set up for the ball cutting. So this is removed. Now I want to explain a few things as we go along in cutting the ball. What's going to happen is as I form the ball, on this side it's okay, because as you remove material, you don't care if it becomes thinner or whatever. The end result is going to be all this and have to be removed anyway. But on this side, when I'm cutting through on this side, that's where the problem becomes, because as it gets smaller here, it becomes less stable. So the idea is to finish this side of the ball at 5.5, finish it. And then from this end, you could hold it using a purposely made cone chuck. Can you see this? Okay, so, and this requires, this is what I like about this, you have the adapter like I used to hold the faceplate. Well, it'll hold this piece, and that will be able to hold the ball while you're finishing off this side. And as you're cutting the ball, you'll find that the wood, you'll see that the wood is going to interfere with the jig. So as I get closer and closer and it starts to interfere, while everything is still there, I use this as the tool rest and cut away the material that's interfering and continue the work.
He's already got one, Frank. You can stop looking for it.
No, but I have to replace one.
Are you gonna give me one? Oh, okay. You say you're gonna replace mine?
Okay.
Well, I'm
Very
gonna
good.
replace it in here because I don't see
I
it.
always keep one in my water.
Okay, we are good. Okay, let's put this as long as possible, so it's out of the way. Work this up, move this out of the way. Okay, and let's move forward, start cutting. Okay, I'm going to draw back the tool as far as possible so I have more room to advance. Okay, that should do it for now. Okay. Now you'll notice that I'm very far. Let me pull this forward at an angle that is closer to the front, like so. Okay, as I move this way, it'll be out of the way, okay, we're good. Okay. I'm gonna go here. Okay, set the height here first. Make sure it doesn't go down. And now I'll lock it into position. Now you can always go back and forth, it doesn't matter. As long as you don't move your center of rotation, it doesn't matter, you're good. Okay. Here we go. Let's go at a decent speed. Okay, let's see what we get. Okay, it's getting bigger. Okay, that's fine. Let's go in some more. Okay, you notice it's getting bigger and bigger. I would have to either adjust and go in and remove. I would rather just put it here, about here. Get my 3/8 inch gouge and just go. I'm basically scraping. This time I use my 1/2 inch ball gouge. Okay, let's continue. Now I'm going to draw back my tool and change the position of the cutting point. Because this corner is preventing me from going any further. So I'm going to bring in this closer to here and see how far I can get until I finally have to get rid of this.
Damiano, the glue joint is not in the center of those two semi-spherical cuts.
It will be when he
It is.
finishes.
When I'm done, it'll be. The important thing that this point was set at the joint. And that's my swiveling point. So right now it may seem offset. But remember, the ball is going this way. So if you can sort of stretch the curve, it's going to end up about here. So all this is, waste. Okay, it looks like it's time that I get rid of this because this is all interfering. So, there we go. So, that at least allowed me to go up to here, which is good. Ouch. Now the glue joint is about there, so I'm going to sort of try to squeeze as much as I can towards, like between them. Okay, so it's going to get looser like that. I'm backing off because it's going to start vibrating. Okay. You can see it works pretty good, huh? I want to adjust the cutting tool a little shorter and more pointed in this direction. It'll do a nicer job. Plus it'll cut down on the vibration from the tool itself. Like so. And also I'd like to arrange it so that the last cut, when I finally zero in, I want it to be a nice smooth cut. Okay. And you notice, it doesn't matter which angle you're at. It's still going according to this, so it doesn't matter. The point now is to finish out that part of the ball. So I can then support it using one of the pieces that I made. And then we'll be able to finish the other side. It'll cut down on the vibration. A little tedious with the Allen key, but okay. Let's proceed. Yeah, unfortunately there is one. Okay, I'm gonna have to do this a little more because I need to move this more out of the way to check with the chuck. So let me back this off and see if I can remove some material. I'm cleared. So maybe I'll remove a little bit more and this way I don't have to So I like my new tourist. Okay, now we're able to check this out. Still jamming, a little bit more. Maybe another 32nd of an inch or something like that. Very close. It's no longer jamming. We're good. Okay. Okay. Now to stabilize that, this is my cone tool that I made to turn and to stabilize.
Which way are the other?
Now this joint here I'd like to preserve as long as possible because that's what's driving the thing. Now for this one I'm going to change the angle of the tool so that I can move in much sharper. This is a good position right here. This is a little too short. start just moving it out of the way. Here.
Yeah, I guess you could. Well, maybe that's why you should take it off with it, just.
Use your eye.
Well, there's the ball. The next step is going to be to open her up. Shall I do it?
Yeah.
Well, that before the glue wheel is exactly the right tools for the job, and skilled craftsman.
So then what I do is afterwards, when this is all clear out and dry, I pass this on, I have brought it here, but I won't use it today. I glue the piece of sandpaper on a flat board, and I just basically remove the paper. And then once it's hollowed, you reglue it. To hollow out the spheres, or the half spheres, I've devised this holding device. Basically, it's a tool rest that's adjustable in height. I adjusted it so that when the tool is in, it'll point to the center. Basically, the pivoting is as such, and you simply advance it, and you okay. So let's say here's your semicircle, and I'm going to set my center here, which is where it should be. Now, as I'm working, this will be out of position. In other words, the rest is going to be positioned in a fixed position, the banjo, and this will be rotating around the banjo. So basically, this center now will move in this direction because it's with the banjo. Follow me?
Yeah.
Now, as you move in, we'll be cutting circle this way. Now, here's the thing: when you start, they are not really semicircular. They are like there's a name for this. They're pointy, like they're not really round yet. So you're starting with this, and as you move further, it becomes rounder and rounder. And then you say, how do you know when you are at the right position again? Well, when you're back to the center, because this is swinging this way, then you test the cut past the center. If you still see that it's rubbing, you're not round yet. You go a bit more until it clears. Then you know you've arrived at the destination. Okay? So the point is the whole point is going to be to set up the center. Once that is done, you lock the banjo. That doesn't move anymore, and you move the piece in and out as you cut. Now I've made a mark here because no matter how accurate we space the holes, we have trouble zeroing in.
Damiano,
Yes.
Your tool, is it tight on the banjo or is it loose on the banjo?
The tool,
Yeah.
this tool,
Do you tighten it? Or
I tighten when I'm cutting,
Okay.
but when I have to change position, I loosen up again. It's the banjo that remains fixed.
The banjo.
Yeah, the banjo will remain fixed. Once I center it, the banjo stays where it is. So this rotates inside the banjo. The other thing is we have to set it up so this thing rotates evenly. It's gonna be, shouldn't wobble. So what I did is I made it so that when I made the chuck, it sticks out about an 1/8 inch all around. So 1/8 inch. Now I don't want the threaded rod to stick out too much because if you accidentally touch it while it's turning, it will hurt. So I try to make it so that it's not protruding. I cannot set my center because wood is in the way. So manually, I'll remove a chunk of it in the front until I can put this in and get my center. Okay? So from this point, I do like you normally would. You put in a tool rest and remove material from the inside. Power's on. And away we go. Good to go. Okay, I think I've removed enough. Let's see. Okay. So we'll replace this with this. This sits right on. And when I made this, I made it so that the screw lines up with the thread and the V groove. So if anything I want to, if I ever want to adjust it, just loosen it up, turn it. I'm always going to be in the groove so that I don't damage the threads. Okay, we're done. Now, how do we set up the center? Well, here's my guide. Basically, this flange or the holding flange is 5/8 inch thick. So my hole is 5/8 inch from this edge. So let's put it between two screws right there. Okay. Now I have two marks here. Can you see this? I need to put those two marks balanced on each side. Okay. Now lock it. and that stays where it is. Okay, you notice it's now locked. Just loosen this up. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm going to be swinging from here to where it was set up. Once that happens, I have my center and the ball has been hollowed correctly. I've set up the radius, which is the radius of the cut, to be such that I'll get a 1/4 inch ball. So this is a 5.5 inch ball. This is a 2.5 inch radius, which is a 5 inch diameter. 5 inch diameter from a 5.5, you got 1/4 inch all around. Okay? So basically I set this up. This stays locked at all times. All I do is this. Cut, advance, cut, advance, cut, and so on. Okay? So let's start. Now notice I'm too far advanced because now it's cutting a lot more, so I have to come back. There we go. Still. Okay, here we go. As I'm cutting, I'm looking at the center to see whether it's getting close to the center. So at the same time, obviously, I see there's a lot of material left, but I have to be very careful with the end. If I'm not wrong, we'll reach a point where there's going to be some resonance. And you'll find that there's going to be like a hollow sound coming out of the opening because the cutting and the opening are in phase. I'll check to sure I am. Okay.
Damiano, does that ring that you have, if you were to cut straight that gives you your 1/4 inch on this?
Wait, this ring here?
Yeah.
No, it's about an 1/8 inch, no, a 1/16 of an inch below that. Because I want to be able to grab the semi-sphere, and at the same time I don't want to be too far out because I won't interfere with the thickness that I want. So basically with this, I am limited to how thick I can make the wall. I haven't attempted to go any thinner than 1/4 inch. But there's room for making it smaller. I notice I'm not very far from destination. So in the last few cuts I will cut at a much higher speed and go slower to get a smoother finish. believe that's it. I should have a 1/4 inch wall. Okay. Okay, I'd like to mention something in passing for those who may be interested in making a jig like this for themselves. Is that what's important here is that the pivoting pin should be of hardened steel, either chromed, hardened chrome shaft. In other words, you want a surface that's absolutely hard relative to the material that you use to pivot on. Reason being that having a hard surface with a softer surface, if it's a tight fit, it can still swing and it won't jam. Whereas if you have two softer materials, if you have the tiniest amount of grit that lands in between, that's it, you'll seize. So by having a hard surface with a softer surface, you're safe. Okay? So that's been done. Now we have to prepare the grooves. We have to make the grooves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the hole that goes at the bottom that will eventually hold the finial. So while it's in this position, it's centered. So it's the best time to do it. I'm going to mark the first groove. I want it to be approximately 1/8 inch away from the edge. So I want to make sure I'm correct on that one. In the center, I don't have to make grooves right up to the hole that I made because the circles are going to be transverse to these circles here. They're going to be here, so they'll never get to the hole. So all I need to do is make the grooves up to approximately 1 inch from the center. Should be more than enough. Okay, now let me just give it approximately 1/8 inch from the edge. Okay. This is where the fun part starts. This is where if you make one mistake, well, it's a goner. Let's do the best we can. This tool here is to set up my spaces. Basically, 1/8 inch groove, or what's the reverse of the groove? The high spot will be 1/8 inch, the edge, and basically I'm setting my spacing before I actually cut the groove. So this sets my mark. You'll notice that this part here doesn't do any cutting. It's purposely dulled. So if you're going to the groove, it won't affect the groove that's been cut. And this one has a curved surface so that you get a clean mark. Okay. This is my spacer. This one is to dig in all the way in. Again, it has the curved surface so that the edges come clean. And then finally, you clean up the edge with a square piece. Can you see it? Okay? All right, so let's begin. The first one is going to have to be a groove that I will make using the line as a guide. And let's see what happens. Now, I'd like to point out that this operation here is not that risky because you're only cutting grooves. It's when you're doing the outside that you have to be very careful, because when the holes intersect, or so when the grooves intersect, they may rip rather than cut clean. So, okay, this one. There we go. My first groove. Let's clean up a bit. See what they look like.
But we have no free turn here. Oh, okay. That's what he said.
Okay.
How far do you go up, Damiano? Like, it could be whatever you want, or?
Well, you can go even as close as you want, but I noticed from past balls that I made, these circles don't come anywhere close to that. So why even go that far, or even weaken the area? Okay, so we're done with this one. So some of the grooves are not clean, depending on which direction the grain goes, but in general, it's not bad. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 5 minutes epoxy to glue them together because the regular glue is going to take a little too long. This one, at least in 5-10 minutes, we're ready to proceed. So the idea now is to glue the two halves together. And you want to glue them so that the grain sort of is more, how do you say, in line with the other one. Okay. Let me get close to the grain. This is it here. The next step is to divide the circumference where the joint is to six parts.
Okay.
And when you make the circles or the grooves, you'll be use up 2 of those parts. So basically, it's six divisions, 3 circles, or 3 concentric circles. So. Basically, this is it here. I got one here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're gonna make 3 rings with grooves?
That's correct.
Does it matter where, or?
Well, where you mark them. Where you mark them. You have to follow the center. Okay, basically, I'll have to point to the center where the Okay, run. So what I'll do now is I will start with the outer groove. I'm going to mark them all. I will not cut them through because if I cut this groove here, then the chuck will be driving the rest of the cuts through those grooves. It's going to break. So we always have to start from here. But the thing is, if I start here with the right spacings, I don't know where I'll end up here. So I'd rather determine that I'm gonna end up here correctly, and then here, the last ring is not important how big it is.
You're gonna use the same 3 tools?
Basically 2. Okay, here we go. These are all they're hand tight. Let's see how well I centered it because there's a slight wobble. It's not too serious. Okay, if this is wobbling, it doesn't matter because the ball is sitting inside the chuck. It's just that it's not very pleasant to look at. Okay. And this is hand tight. I don't have to use a tool for this. Okay. Okay.
That's 21 beer.
So let's mark. Let's mark this.
1 or 2 beers.
This is the
The other
groove
one's
here.
6.
Okay, so from the line that I put, I'm gonna stay about a 1/16 of an inch, so that the other circles, when I leave a 16th as well, I'll end up with about an 1/8 inch gap. I'll just use the tip. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark to see which grooves are hollow and which one remains, so that I'll know where to stop. So let's say here's a groove right here. Skip that one. There's this one. Skip that one. This one. This one. This one. This one. And this one. Okay. All right. So we have a groove here, we're going to have a groove here. No groove there, and groove there. No, we're going to stop here, because the next part is going to be a groove here. Let's say no groove here, a groove here. It's going to be very small. I can take the chance. The worst case scenario, the worst case scenario, the center part pops out. It doesn't matter. Groove here, that's the one. Okay, well, let's see if it stays or not. Groove, skip, groove, skip, groove. Okay, we'll have a little center of about 3/16 of an inch. It may work. Okay, here we go. Now this one, I've rotated the tool to have a cutting tip which is thinner than the 1/8 inch, so that hopefully I won't tear the inside. Let's keep our fingers crossed. The other thing is, when you're cutting, you want to make sure that you point the tool towards the center of the sphere. It's like, give yourself it's a guess, but now I noticed I felt the groove appearing. Now let's see how. Yep, there's an opening right there. Okay, so we're good. There's an opening there too. Now, when all the slots have been made, all the screws have been made, it's quite possible that you need to sort of pick on it to clean them out, because the wood may not necessarily come out. It may be stuck there. So. Okay, did you hear the sound? Okay. Something else. So a little bit of patience does the trick. Working?
Nice shot, Claude. Good shot.
Huh?
Good job.
Well, thank you.
Right.
It's coming.
You can see them.
you that was so precise in getting the center up?
What do you mean?
You could
Your other-
adjust your little,
The gizmo for
The little
the
gizmo
making inside
there.
grooves.
Oh.
Your tool rest for making the inside grooves.
What about it?
You said you can't use it on the outside?
No, no, because the other one is meant to swing, to make semicircles, to cut spheres. This you're just moving in.
You're gonna come in there.
Uh,
yeah, what happened there?
Move a little bit more forward, you'll see it on the.
That's too bad. Well, you know, I may be able to fix it. Put in a piece and,
Could you turn the lathe a little bit backwards to bring in the lens
Forward.
that we're looking
Yeah,
at?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
There.
say it again. Okay. Well, it's not all
Okay.
finished yet. Okay. Yes.
How would you clean up all those openings inside?
Well, you got a tool, you know, like it's almost like a dental, you know, tool that you go in and you zip it up. And Juliana happens to have given me almost a dozen of them a long time ago, and they're perfect. But you know, you can make yourself one. Doesn't have to be a dental tool, but the idea is you grab it and you clean up the edges. Okay, now let's proceed. I have a piece of, well, I'm going to use wood called Angeline wood. That's the name it's wood that smells not very pleasantly when you're cutting, but it finishes beautifully. So you'll live with the smell, but it'll be over after. Now what I'm going to attempt to do is I'm going to make first the tenon, if you like, a tiny tenon of 3/8 inch that fits one end, and then once I've got most of it shaped, I'll take it out of the chuck and finish the other side. Okay, so it'll be a lot easier, and then I'll have to drill a hole to put in a hook or an eyelet to be able to hang it on. Okay, so I'll be doing the top piece first, and I'll do the long finial second. Okay, I've set my calipers for 3/8 of an inch. See where I am. I'm going to use a parting tool and just, get it right down. But I like to use the time to practice in public. Okay, it's a little smaller, so I'll be able to be a little more gentle. The sphere has a circular shape, so I'm going to attempt to make a shape that will match that. Give it a try. It's a very snug fit. I'll loosen it up a bit. It's a little tight. Okay, the curvature is not quite there yet, so I'll work it a little bit more. This one shot. That's very good. Okay. So let's clean up this edge here, and I'll round it off, and I like to end up with like almost like a ball on the other end. Here I'm really playing it by ear. I'm looking at the shape and it's all subjective. There's no any specific shape or size. I'm thinking of how it would look as best possible based on the size of the ball. Closer. Anybody got scared? At this point, I'm thinking I'm going to turn it around. Now the point that I'm grabbing is a 3/8 inch diameter, so I'm not going to be very aggressive. I have to take my time. This will be removing this new. try to make a mark for the center. And normally I would sand this down and polish it and seal it. That I'll do that at home. Okay, that's the first side. And now, for the more difficult one. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, by supporting it at this end, I'm basically going to sacrifice about a 1/4 inch of the end because I want to support it all the way until I finish it. And the tip or the point is going to end up here about a 1/4 inch shy of the end. This way I'll have support at all times. Should I check how close I am to the jaws? So I need as much as I could. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I can go closer to the edge since I'm being supported and take advantage of more material, but maybe not. No, I'll leave it at such. I don't want to be greedy. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide it. I'm going to divide it in the area in a way that I have the finial with all the supporting parts. So I'm gonna reserve about, let's say, 1/2 inch for the final 3/8 inch. What do you call it? Pin, if you like, that goes into the end. Tenon, yeah. But I'll do that closer to the end because I don't want to weaken the drive end of the finial. So I'll be working to shape it. I'll reserve it. I'll shape it, give it its position, but I won't dig into it until most of it is done. So basically, I got to partition it in a way that it'll come out visually okay. So I'm going to say this, I'm going to reserve this part for the tenon. Okay. This part here will be like a flange that goes over the ball, and here we start shaping it. The highest point I intended to be about here, so between here and there it will be the highest point, and the lowest point will be here. And finally the tip will be here. Okay? So I'll work almost backwards, if you like, and see what happens. There's a lot of material to remove, so I'll try with this. Right now, I'm just removing material. We're trying to put another bead here, just like the top. Sort of acts like a balancing feature. Here I'd like to sort of finish off at about 3/16 or a little bit less at this end, and then have sort of the tip. try to finish this end. I don't want, it's going to go down to pretty much zero here, so I do not want to weaken it to a point where I won't have the stability that I want. So I'm going to finish off this end first, and once this is done, I'll finish off the other. It will require some sanding, but I have pretty well the shape that I want. What we have. So instead of 3/8, we're almost there. So we're in, but we're really snug. I'm going to remove just a bit more. Okay. Now here's the tricky part, because I don't have much room to maneuver here. But I try to make the curve that I need to. I'm going to be using the skew, the little skew, lying down. So, no. What's happening? And now we will finish the other side. Looking at the tip, I figure it's about this deep here, right there. So I'm going to end right there at the tip. Stop spinning. Means it's pretty well out. A little sanding, should bring it in. This is also good. It stayed quite straight. I would have thought that when the tail started to remove, it would wobble a little bit. No, it's quite good. Okay, let's see how this thing fits. Right. Yeah. There it goes. It goes this way. And there's the